So, as we end this chapter of introducing hydroponics, let me also introduce you with the different type of hydroponic systems. I have already mentioned some of this in my previous lesson, and right now we will be looking at each one of them in a more detailed manner. So first, we will discuss deep water culture system. Next, we will discuss vertical hydroponics. And of course, I will give a quick overview of what the Kratky system is. I am sure that you are already familiar with hydroponics. But this session will be really helpful if you're trying to find out which system is best or ideal for you. First, let us talk about deep water culture. So if you're looking for a low maintenance way to grow your plants and your veggies and herbs, then probably the deep water culture system is for you. So deep water culture, commonly known as the DWC, is one of the most famous types of hydroponic systems. So in DWC, the roots of the plants are instead contained in a net pot or a grow cup. So this is like similar with your pots, but this will be submerged in water. So the roots there are suspended to the nutrient solution and dangling in a liquid nutrient solution. So a DWC or deep water culture may be set up as an active or a passive system. So we will go to the differences between these two systems. So when we say active deep water culture system, it involves growing plants wherein the nutrient solution is delivered to the roots via a submersible water pump. So it has a water pump and also it has an aerator or an oxygen pump. On the other hand, a passive deep water culture system functions more like an automatic watering system. So your plant's nutrient and water requirements are met through the growing media on which they are planted. So in general, active systems have higher growth rates since it has a water pump and it also have an oxygenated nutrient solution. And passive systems are easier to set up and also easier to manage, most especially for beginners in gardening. So let us get to know more about the DWC or deep water culture bucket. So this is actually one of the things that I've already tried for my years of experience in hydroponic gardening. And it is a system where the plant roots are suspended in a well-oxygenated solution of water and nutrients. So the solution has actually three major components, which is first, the oxygen. Oxygen must be supplied in water because the roots are immersed in water. So the roots actually must also have a source of oxygen because your roots actually also breathe. So your roots also breathe, just like us. They undergo a process which we call respiration. And in the respiration, we need to have an oxygen source in order for us to continue with that biological process. In respiration, that is where the energy for the plant's growth and development is actually being produced. Thus, it is very important for us to have an oxygen source for our roots. To supply this in an active deep water culture system, some are using an air pump with an air stone. Next, of course, we have the water. So considering this method, water is actually one of the major components of hydroponic system, as what I have mentioned in our past lesson. So it is like, growing hydroponically means you do not have to water your plants again and again and again, because it is also important for us to maintain the health of our water. Uh, it is important for us to maintain the temperature, maintain the pH, and also to maintain and make sure that there will be no pathogens or diseases that will be in your water because that is where your roots are submerged and that is where your plant is getting the nutrients that they need. And of course, speaking of nutrients, we have nutrients. A good grade soil includes all of the micro and macro nutrients. So we have a macro, which are nutrients that are needed by the plants in greater amount. And we also have the micronutrients, which are nutrients that are needed by the plants in just small amount. So that is a major consideration in terms of soil gardening. Actually, in hydroponics, that is also the case. That is why we need to enrich our water with the essential nutrients that our plant needs. That is actually one of the beauty of hydroponics. It's that you can control what nutrient should you place in a specific plant. So for instance, if you notice that, oh, my plants are yellowing at this point in time, so perhaps that is a sign that your nutrient solution is lacking with nitrogen. So at this point, you can look for a nitrogen fertilizer and supply it into your plant. So that is the beauty of hydroponics. You can control the water, and of course, you're in control of what your plants are getting. So the good thing about the deep water culture system is that once it is set up, it requires very little maintenance. So the plants even grow much quicker here than in soil. For instance, I have a friend uh, who is growing hydroponic lettuce, and just in 30 days, 30 days, that is just 1 month or less, she was able to grow a lot of lettuce and she's actually making money out of it. And if we will contrast that into the typical soil gardening, uh, the lettuce grown in soil actually grows in like 60 days or even more for some variety, for the good variety. So yeah, that's for the deep water culture system. Now let us go with vertical hydroponics. So in vertical hydroponics, the system is more complicated. So here there will be a water pump to transport the nutrient-rich water or the nutrient solution from the bottom reservoir to the top or the upper portion of the system. So from the term itself, it could be a tower. Thus, you will be needing a hose in order for you to transport the nutrient from the bottom to the top. So from the top, the nutrient water will fall down and is collected again at the bottom of the reservoir for recirculation. So the good thing here is that the water is constantly being transported and recirculated along the system. Thus, this is a system that can consume lesser amount of water. So this system, unlike other hydroponic systems that we have mentioned, actually saves space because it is oriented upward. So as a result, this is actually ideal or best for those who are planning to have an indoor hydroponic system. So this can also be located in your own kitchen. If you want to have a immediate source of plants or herbs for your kitchen, then you can have uh, a vertical hydroponic set up in your kitchen. So another intriguing aspects of vertical hydroponics is its wide range of benefits. First, the system is capable of harvesting more plants. Imagine you can harvest in like if you have a 1 meter by 2 meters or a 1 by 1 meter amount of space or even less than that, you can install a tower oriented upwards and harvest from that little space. If you have a full room or a full land dedicated for this one, this can actually turn into a business. The small sunny areas, such as balconies or patios or rooftops, can also be used for hydroponics that are oriented vertically. Another is that using this system, you can also have an all year round production of plants because it is a system wherein you can control of all of the input that you supply your plant. It will be easier for you to produce plants all year round. For example, if you want lettuce all year round, then it is good that you invest in a hydroponic system. So of course, in vertical hydroponics, as what I've mentioned, it can provide water efficiency of more than 90%. It can use the water 90% more efficiently than conventional gardening. And of course, it is important, and one of the biggest things that we are actually concerned in agriculture is the pathogen. When you're using vertical hydroponics or any hydroponic system, they are less prone to contamination. Just of course, you need to maintain the sanitation and you need to always look at different aspects in order to prevent these different diseases. So to give you an overview of vertical hydroponics, I will discuss two types of vertical hydroponics. First is the nutrient film technique. So vertical hydroponics using the nutrient film technique actually involves stacking tubes on top of one another and connecting them with elbow pipes. So here the stream flows downward from one channel to the next and so on. After that, the hydroponic solution is recirculated. So in nutrient film technique, this is actually being practiced mostly by enterprises, by business owners who want to grow plants in a larger scale. Some of the components of vertical nutrient film technique hydroponics include hydroponic reservoir. We have the nutrients, the submersible water pump that can transport the nutrient solution throughout the system. We also have the water hose, of course, to link every tubes in the hydroponic system. The glowing tubes, of course, the net cups, and of course, the LED grow lights with a timer, or of course, you can also use the sun itself if you're planting in a greenhouse. So the second type of vertical hydroponics is the hydroponic towers. In hydroponic towers, the water flows in the same way that it does in the nutrient film technique. The only difference here is that after reaching the top, the water rains down on the roots. So you can imagine that this is just a big tube and the roots are just dangling without the direct uh, contact with water. But when the system is recirculating its water, it seems like it is a rain inside that tube. Their difference is that in hydroponic towers, it is just like a rain, and in vertical nutrient film technique, it is just a river. So some of the basic components of a hydroponic tower includes the tower body, a top perforated reservoir. When we say perforated, so these are there must be a hole on the upper side. Thus, those hole will imitate the raining mechanism that hydroponic towers have. And of course, the water reservoir from below, submersible water pump, LED grow lights, a water hose, and of course, the net cups for the plant. And of course, lastly, we have the Kratky system. So I discussed the hydroponic systems before, the deep water culture system, the nutrient film technique, and now the Kratky system will be the focus of this whole course. The Kratky system is actually the simplest system of growing plants that can even be done using recycled materials. So you can have a lot of Kratky system lined up perhaps on your windows near your kitchen. So we will go over this in detail in the next chapter. So I hope that in this lesson you've learned the different types of hydroponics. As a review, let's have first the deep water culture system, wherein it can be an active system or a passive system. And of course, the vertical hydroponics, which can also be classified, or some examples of under this system are the nutrient film technique and the hydroponic tower. So thank you for listening and see you in the next lesson.